Elentila Lumenomentilvo. Welcome to Tolkien on Tap. I'm TJ. Grab a drink and enjoy. Almia. Go ahead.
I just think, because in Lotro,
Oh God. Oh,
there is this really
Same here.
there is this really lovely little quest line in the Great River, which is between Lothlorien and Stangard, which is like the most northerly part of Rohan. There's this really lovely little quest line. You know, it's a blink and you miss it quest line. You could skip it. Like you don't even, it's not even part of the like epic quest line. But it's sort of like the introduction to the Great River and the introduction to like Rohan and everything. There is this man of Rohan who sees this elf maiden and, as you know, men are wont to do, falls in love with her immediately. And
Sure.
she completely rebuffs him. And then spoilers, he ends up being killed by orcs. And after he's killed by orcs, she doesn't have like I actually did love him, but she has this like kind of like softening of her heart moment where she's like, maybe was too like cruel to just reject him. Like maybe I could have just, listened to him. Maybe I maybe there
Pity.
was something. Maybe there was something there. And it's a mixture of like a
You
little bit of
mean
like pity and a
there
little
may
bit of
be something there that wasn't there before?
yes.
Sorry, I
Exactly.
couldn't help myself.
No, go for it. So for me, like, I think that the idea that, like, frankly, in my mind, the idea that Legolas and Gimli were like the only dwarf and elf friends in the entire Third Age is preposterous. I think that it's just one of those things that we just, there are lots of stories that we just don't know about. I am
That's a fair
certain,
point.
I
That's a
am
fair point.
certain that there were other instances of like elves falling in love with, men or women, or men or women falling in love with elves. And, like, I can't accept that, like, Legolas and Gimli were it.
You bring up a really good point about how, for me, I can only speak for myself. It's really difficult to divorce the idea of the stories as stories written by an author and the stories as the conceit by which Tolkien brought them to us, being that they are found texts.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of times, like I personally will be like, well, Tolkien explicitly said this. Yes, he did. But
Yes,
also,
he did.
it's explicitly said in the quote unquote found text in the way he delivered the stories to us. So you are absolutely correct, Jen. I didn't think of it that way. So, and this is part of why I do this, because I really enjoy hearing different perspectives, because it helps me broaden the way I think about things. So thank you for that.
No, that's
Course.
great. That's way smarter. And I was about to say, and Jen said it way smarter in a more interesting way. But I was about to say
Stop.
we need to move on to Rings of Power pretty soon because we're back
I
in this
was getting
situation.
there.
Because I'm about to be like last time, I'm about to be in a situation where I'm weirdly defending the Peter Jackson films, even beyond the amount that I like them. Because like you were saying about like, oh, there's the beef between dwarves and elves, but like the Tariel Keeley thing within the context of the Peter Jackson Tolkien verse, like could definitely be seen to add to Legolas's like weirdness about dwarfs. Because the Hobbit movies don't contain a great like Legolas being like, oh, you know what, I was too harsh moment, you know? He fights in the battle, he helps, he fights orcs against them, but otherwise he has sort of a like weird conversation with his dad about how he's not coming back because they're gonna go meet Arathorn's son.
Oh God,
Wink.
what a fucking ham-fisted way to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that in the Peter Jackson cinematic universe, you have to do that because you skipped the 17 years
Yeah.
between Bilbo's 111th birthday and
That's
Frodo
true.
departing the
So maybe there's not
Shire.
the 60
Yeah.
years, yeah, between. But all that to say, like, it adds to the like elf dwarf drama between Legolas and Gimli
One time
in
I was in love with this beautiful woman and she fell in love with a
a
dwarf, so I hate
friggin'
dwarves even
dwarf.
more. Yeah,
Ew.
which is
Yeah.
stupid, and I don't like that. But
Before
I just
we
like I don't know. I just think like kind of like how the concept of like the Silmarillion is the history of the ages of Middle Earth told basically exclusively from the point of view of the elves.
Mhm.
You know, and in the discussions in my book club, like we've had we've had a few people who are like reading the Silmarillion for the first time, and they're like, so do hobbits ever get mentioned? I'm
Oh
like,
yeah. I remember that feeling.
mm,
Narp.
Nope. Not at
well,
all.
no, but that
There
doesn't
Are they
might be a
mean
mentioned?
sentence
Are
at
they
the very
mentioned
end.
in Of the Rings of Power in the Third Age?
I think they might
I think
be
they are, yeah.
um
Oh, we got the book.
briefly, but that doesn't mean that there weren't hobbits existing doing
It's
their own shit.
it
Like
says so in the prologue or whatever of
like
Lord of the Rings.
like
That there weren't
just
hobbits.
because something isn't explicitly stated in Tolkien's work doesn't mean it didn't happen,
100%. And also that's very
in my
Tolkien to
opinion.
be like, oh, and there's way more of this happening. Because basically, like everything that happens east of the Blue Mountains before the Second Age is not recorded in any way, shape, or form. But he
Mhm.
makes very clear that there's a lot happening.
And that's another thing that I love about Lotro.
What? Jen loves Lotro.
What?
Damn it, you said it too.
Crazy.
Oh yeah,
But like
Lotro.
I
The
did like
hobbits.
it.
It does say in the prologue of the Lord of the Rings that hobbits have existed since the Elder Days, and the Elder Days
Mhm.
are
Oh,
First Age. So
there you
yeah,
go.
they've been around
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. But because the elves didn't know who they
For
were and
Frodo
what
the
they were
Halfling, it
doing.
is said, yeah, it's in the Silmarillion in the Rings of Power
Mhm.
in the Third Age. They are
Yeah.
mentioned,
Nice.
Yeah.
but it's
But
Yeah.
you know, it's like it's like you kind of, I mean, this is maybe a controversial take here,
That's
oh
what
but
we're here
no,
for.
oh no.
I kind of equate the Silmarillion to the history books in Louisiana that talk about the slaves singing while they worked. And it's
What?
Mhm.
like,
Oh.
mm-hmm, sure
Now
they
that
did.
that does tie into my favorite. I haven't gotten to that chapter in my current reread of Silmarillion with your book club. Um but I did before reading the Silmarillion did listen to the audiobook of The Children of Hurin narrated by Christopher Lee.
Oh
Incredible.
my god, I just finished that.
Absolutely
I just
phenomenal.
finished that.
But
Oh,
I posted about this on Threads. Maybe my favorite moment of like Tolkien and like it's one of those Tolkien moments where it's like, are you an old racist English guy or are you putting it into your story because this is elves telling it? But
mhm.
maybe my favorite
Bit
moment,
of column A, bit of column B.
yeah, probably it's exactly that because they're talking about how Nargothrond, Finrod's kingdom,
Nargothrond.
in the first age,
Not a
uh,
Castellando if you're
was
speaking Quenya.
was originally I'm not was originally built by petty dwarves, and it's this
Mhm.
Oh
conversation.
my god, are we gonna do this thing?
No,
Don't
we're not going down the petty dwarves rabbit hole. We don't,
No,
we're
just
no no
focusing on the adaptations.
just
no go
Sorry.
just
ahead. No no no
no.
now
So
I
you
got
my
can go,
fault.
I
George.
just got one joke because it just was hilarious to me. Because basically in the text essentially reads, "Petty dwarves do not like the Noldor because they claim the Noldor came in and stole all their lands." And then basically the next sentence is, I mean, they did steal their lands, but still, petty dwarves are just dumb bitches, right?
So,
Like,
all right, listen. If we're gonna fucking tangent this shit, take a drink ready. By the way, Finrod. I'm just gonna do
oh
it
yeah,
now, and after that, we're gonna pause the game. So I'm gonna fucking say this name a lot.
yeah.
All right,
Time out on the drinking game.
time out on the drinking game. All right. Listen, I know you're making a joke. That's my boy. That's
Oh
my boy,
no,
and I gotta defend my boy.
Finrod is also my boy. I texted you about this.
He was given those caves by the fucking king of the Sindar, Elway
Oh,
Singolo. On pause
yep,
game.
yep.
Fuck Elway Singolo.
Fuck Eluthingal.
Pause game. He was given those caves uh by Thingol. The Sindar are the ones who hunted the petty dwarves to almost extinction. They eradicated them. And like David's got a whole fucking, like, if you go to his page on Threads, he's got whole fucking like 7-8 threads longs, and you know how long you can make a thread on fucking Threads. How many times can I say the word thread?
Right.
Right, exactly. My boy did not do anything wrong to the petty dwarves. They were already gone because of the Sindar. That's why Eluthingal was able to give him the KFC, not a Castellando.
In the version that's in Children of Húrin,
which is written by the Sindar.
Okay. I'll say.
Yeah.
In the text
Sindar.
of Children of Húrin,
Sindar.
it says that. Yeah. Listen, I'm
that's all I'm saying is it really to tie this back into the whole adaptation thing with Tauriel is just because it isn't explicitly stated by whoever the narrator of whatever work of text we're working with does not mean it didn't happen. And that also kind of segues us into Rings of Power.
Real quick, before we get into Rings of Power, can we all please take a drink, because Lee Pace was an amazing Thranduil, and he's gorgeous as fuck.
Absolutely,
so beautiful.
Cheers.
Those eyebrows.
Oh my god, that everything.
Absolutely.
Anyways,
the fucking, oh my god, I just I think we were robbed of Thranduil in all black because he had an all black costume.
He wasn't actually Thranduil. Like, he's a great actor, and I know he's playing Thranduil. That Thranduil was fucking Thingol, like personified. Like, that is exactly
because
so much
like Thranduil in the books, book singular, is like, you know what, you guys going to Erebor and waking up this dragon is a really, really bad idea. So I'm not gonna keep you forever. I'm gonna just keep you in this dungeon until after Durin's Day, and then I'll let you out. I just really don't want you waking up this fucking dragon, because it's gonna be bad for my people. It's gonna be bad for the people of Lake Town who I trade with. It's gonna be bad for y'all. Just don't do it, guys. And they kind of made Thranduil like kind of a bitch.
Thingolish.
They made him 100% Thingol. There's nothing about Thranduil in the Hobbit films that is not Thingol in the books.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead and do your segue. Sorry, Jen. I totally
No. My only segue was just like the one thing that I was kind of like bummed about. I mean, one, I am forever bummed about Nazani and Boniadi not coming back for season 2, because I absolutely adore the character of Bronwyn.
Agreed.
I absolutely love Bronwyn and Arondir. Like, I mean, I fucking love Arondir. Like,
agreed.
Oh my god, I love him so much. I could.
Yes.
And Ismail is, oh my god. Anyway, like,
sorry, I'm over here spilling drinks.
No, you're good. So fuck, I can't remember the character's name because I only know his name because of subtitles, but which subtitle supremacy.
Okay.
One of his friends, the one friend that he like says like smells like leaves, rotting leaves or something or whatever, when they go to the town where Bronwyn is the healer, and like his friend is just kind of like, oh, there have been many, like there have been a few elf human pairings and none of them they've all ended in tragedy. And I'm like, have they though? Like, I take umbrage with that. Because I personally, from like a purely pragmatic standpoint, I do not think that Beren and Lúthien's story ended in tragedy. I think there are tragic aspects of it.
So look at it from
I don't think that you
the elf's perspective, though. That's an elf saying that. You have to look at it from
the elf's perspective.
The elf's perspective, that is ending in tragedy.
He became mortal, and that's the worst.
Exactly.
That's the worst. But I'm just saying for myself that I think, again, that's from the elf perspective. But you cannot tell me that every elf knows the business of every elf who has ever lived. That's
I
not.
Absolutely not.
That's
aren't they? Can't they like talk with their minds?
Sometimes,
I
depending
know.
on the
I'm
story.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
I
being
mean,
constrained. I'm
I
being
Yeah.
mean,
constrained.
Oh, of course.
I'm just saying,
That's why we're
like,
here.
that really is my whole point with the whole thing.
You're not wrong at all.
No.
Is
Yeah.
just like, just because, you know, friggin' Tolkien didn't write about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And
Um,
actually, I really like the way you frame that because that makes a ton of sense. And it actually like that helps me quell a lot of my disdain for a few things. So thank you for that.
yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite is when I hate something and then somebody else who likes similar things has talks me through it and I'm like, you know what? No, that's my favorite thing is like when somebody talks me out of hating something.
Yeah, totally. Like, listen, I'm still not gonna like the love triangle, regardless.
Sure.
I'm never gonna like the
I
love
don't like the
triangle.
love triangle.
I
Listen,
don't like the
as I
love
said,
I don't.
do not
triangle.
Okay,
like the
let me be more
triangularness of
specific.
it.
I will never love or even slightly enjoy. First of all, the way Keely looks. Feely, which one was he?
Keely.
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 I always have to do that too.
I can't stand the way those two
Aidan
dwarves look.
Turner.
They don't look like dwarves
Why were
whatsoever.
3 dwarves hot and the others were
Because it's
cartoon
Aidan
characters?
Turner and Dino
No, but
Gorman.
that's one of my okay. I know we're moving on from the Hobbit,
Duh!
but just real
You
quick,
don't
Oh
take
no, I went
people
back.
who look
I
like
purposely
Aidan
went back.
Turner
like
and
hot
Dino
foreign,
Gorman and
I
make
get.
them ugly.
But why are there
No,
4
listen. Why
hot
do they gotta be ugly?
dwarves?
Because they're dwarves. Get out of here with that
No,
business.
but like,
No,
why are
I'm
there
okay.
4?
Ugly was
We're
the
out of
wrong
control here.
word.
How
Ugly
dare
was the
you?
wrong
How
word.
dare you say
Yeah,
that
Ugly
people
was
like
the
Gimli
wrong
are
word.
ugly?
but like
No,
that
Gimli's beautiful.
that goes
He's a
into my
beautiful
like,
man.
what is this movie problem? Is why are there like 4 hot dwarves and 9 cartoon characters?
Mhm.
Like,
Wait,
'Cause
four.
I don't know. I guess it's 3.
Four,
Keely,
Keely Feely.
Feely, and
Keely.
Thorne.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Aidan Turner, Dino Gorman, and Richard Armitage. Let's talk about those 3 men for a second. Like,
Feel free before
let's-
and then we will go to
All right, so that'll be
Rings
an
of
entire
Power.
episode.
that'll be an entire episode. I'm just
You
saying.
two just let me know when you want to do that episode.
I'm just saying when you are trying and you can blame fucking capitalism for this because capitalism is the
Sure.
root of all evil.
Sure.
But when you are making a film that is intended to turn a profit, you do not take human beings as beautiful as Richard Armitage and Aidan Turner and Dino Gorman and put them in heavy prosthesis.
And
No.
this
Just
is
don't
the
do it.
entire reason why none of this shit should ever be in live action ever again.
I mean,
No,
I
we should
also
keep
have my
trying
own
till we get it
feelings
right.
about, I got feelings about Graham McTavish. So,
Listen, he was one of the few dwarves that they made an interesting choice with that I was like, fuck
Who-
yeah.
Who's that?
Fuck yeah. He's
Dwalin.
Dwalin.
Okay.
He was the bald headed dwarf that didn't have a long beard.
except
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Battle of Azanulbizar, he has a
When he
mohawk.
had the mohawk.
It's
Yeah.
sick.
Oh yeah.
And I
Yeah.
told him when I met him, I was like,
He's my second favorite. He's my second favorite dwarf.
I was like,
in
I
the
really
films.
liked your
outside of-
mohawk in Battle of Azanulbizar. He was
Outside
like,
of
yeah,
who?
it was pretty cool,
I think
wasn't
we've
it?
talked about this already.
So
Outside of who?
in the Hobbit films, outside of Balin, Dwalin is
That's
my
the
favorite.
correct choice. Yeah.
Yeah, but well, because I mean, Balin and Bilbo are like so sweet together.
Yeah, absolutely. In the books and the films, Balin's my
Balin.
favorite.
Exactly.
And Ken Stott is such an angel.
Ken
human.
Stott, not enough is said about that. We talk too
Mhm.
much. Richard Armitage is great. We talk too much about that and not enough about Ken Stott's Balin.
Also,
gosh.
we
Yeah.
also have to
Warm.
have an aside for Peter Hamilton's glowing and the whole
Oh
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
my wife.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my wee lad. Gimli.
That's so great.
Like, oh, so precious and wonderful. Also, speaking of angel humans, Peter Hamilton is an angel
Humans.
Angel
you see-
human.
Did
Just
you?
wonderful.
I just saw on the TikTokies yesterday. Someone posted a video. They made a guitar for Pippin for Billy Boyd,
Mhm.
and
Billy
they
is such
carved.
a sweetheart.
Yeah, and they carved the Lorien leaf for the head, and they gave it to him because his one of his guitars had gotten stolen or whatever,
Mhm.
and he was so surprised and so like she was
Oh.
like, "I built you this," and he goes, "No!" grabs her by the arm, like gently puts
Yeah.
his hand on her arm. Was like, no, he's so grateful and
He's
generous.
Oh my
so
Two
gosh,
videos.
I
The
would
second video,
cry.
he goes,
I haven't seen that.
Can I show Dom? And she goes, yeah. And Dom's in like the next booth over.
Mhm.
And he goes over so excited. Oh, it's the most like
Oh,
they did
They
such a phenomenal job with casting like
oh my
really
god.
good human
Like
beings.
yeah, absolutely.
this is not this is gonna sound like a brag. This is not meant to sound like a brag.
Brag away.
But
Come on.
I have met most of the dwarves, with the exception of the three hot ones, which is a real
Wow,
bummer in my case.
unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. But I've met also most of the fellowship as well. And like Billy is such a sweetheart. Like I at the time I met him, so I met him twice. I met him once in 2014 and then again in 2024. And in 2014, I had a cat that I had named Pippin.
Hmm.
And I so we'd taken we did a photo op at this convention, and our photo op was with Sean Astin, Billy Boyd, and John Rhys Davies, who, oh my
Mm.
God, John Rhys Davies is out of this world magical. He is the most wonderful
Oh,
human
I've
being
heard
I've
you talk
ever
about him a
met
little
in
bit.
my
Yes.
entire life. He is like, if you ever have an opportunity to meet him, fucking take it, because he will just make you feel like the most special, wonderful person. Like,
Amazing.
oh, he just, oh my God, he is the best person in the entire universe, in my
That's amazing.
opinion.
I am
But
so sorry. I will
Hmm.
be right back.
go for it.
Go, Georgie.
Poor Georgie. But like, I like told Billy, like after our photo op, because we were like some of the last people, I like told Billy that I had a cat named Pippin, and he was like, "Do you have a picture?" And I was like, "Oh shit, Billy Boyd wants to see my cat." And so I'm like scrolling through my pictures. I'm like, "Oh, here's a picture." And then he was like super cute about it. And he was like, "There are so many cats called Pippin. I want to meet a dog called Pippin." And so then at the convention last year, I was like, because there's a gal in my book club who has a little dachshund named Pippin.
Yeah.
And so I like saved a picture of Pippin the dachshund. And so I went up to Billy and I was like, so 10 years ago, I met you and I showed you a picture of my cat Pippin, and you told me that you wanted to meet a dog called Pippin. Well, here's a dog called Pippin. And he was like, oh, he was so cute. They're like the cast of both films,
Yeah.
just absolute angel humans. Like, and
Yeah.
from what I know of the cast of Rings of Power, same deal. They're just all total angel humans. And I just
Oh, I can't do the elf dwarf love thing. I just can't. It just doesn't
just
jive with
saying,
me. Just doesn't
just
jive with
saying,
me.
just saying.
I just want Legolas and Gimli to be the first. That's all.
What, the first
Yeah.
dwarves to, or the first dwarf and elf to ever like
Fuck
each other?
yes.
Oh.
You know, that's what I'm
No,
talking
that was
about.
Narvi and Celebrimbor.
That's right.
Yeah, come on, let's talk about that fucking bromance.
Right. Speaking of Narvi and Celebrimbor, we kind of started to get into Rings of Power. Let's start talking about Rings of Power as an adaptation, and let's start on
Yeah.
season 1. Let's not focus on season 2 yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have just it's just a thought real quick about Rings of Power as a, speaking of segues from from the Hobbit to Rings of Power, because I was on Threads a while back and somebody posted and said, I want to like the Hobbit, but I just have such a hard time with all the CGI orcs. And somebody commented and got like 20, 30 likes on it and said like, ugh, don't ever watch Rings of Power. And I've seen other similar comments and I've realized,
Wait, where's the CGI orcs
yeah,
in that?
yeah, I've realized that like Rings of Power has become, because it's such like a meme to hate it, that
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
that Rings of
it's
Power
cool
has
to hate
become
it.
like a pariah for all of the things you don't like about any Tolkien adaptation.
Wait, is Rings of Power the Nickelback of Tolkien?
Yeah. So personally, what are your least favorite things
That
about
is
Rings?
Nickelback slander.
No, 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 no. The thing is, people actually like Nickelback
Yeah,
quite a
I
bit,
love
and they're
Nickelback.
like they're ashamed to admit it,
but it's just a
so they
meme to
just
hate
hate
it.
it.
I'm not
Yes,
ashamed to admit
Yeah.
it.
So
I
you gotta,
fucking love Nickelback.
so
I
here's the
like Nickelback
question.
too.
Here's the question. What are your least favorite things about Rings of Power? Because for me, it's what they
Bronwyn
did to,
dying.
it's what
Song
they
of the
did to
Hithaglier.
no, it's what they did to Faramir and the rotoscoping.
You said Rings of Power, and then you said
Yeah.
Prince of
No,
Ithilien
that's what
at
I'm
the
saying.
end.
If you're like, oh, CGI orcs, and it's just a pariah for things they
Oh.
don't like about any adaptation.
Mm.
So
Oh, I see where you're going.
yeah. So it's like,
George, you got to be careful doing those like jokes where I
Yeah.
got to think because like,
yeah.
mind you, I've had some vodka tonight.
Yeah, so have I, but I also thought about that joke earlier today. So
Okay, so speaking
I'm
of,
sorry.
let's talk about season 1 specific.
Yeah.
Okay, season 1
Favorite
specifically.
and least favorite thing. Top.
Oh.
You could do top however many. It doesn't matter. We don't have to
Mm.
like
I
yeah.
did kind of, I mean, I kind of talked about this on the episode that I was on with Gia and
Elise.
Elise, yes, Teaching with Magic. I was like, I can't remember what her name was because I know
That's
that
all good.
her tag is Teaching with Magic, and that's
Yeah.
how like I know people by their tags on Threads.
Yeah.
For sure.
And like it's even worse with the book club being on Discord. I'm like, I know you by your Discord name. I have no idea what your real name is. Like,
Yeah.
And especially when people use different names on Discord as they do on Threads, I'm like, I don't know who the fuck
That's
you
why
are.
I try to keep everything the same.
Oh yeah,
that's
same.
why I changed mine, is because I was trying to make it the same.
When I started making content, I went and looked at every social I had, and I was like, "Well, I'm changing that, changing that, changing that."
Yep.
Made
same.
it all the same because I started making content on TikTok, and that was the niche, and so I made everything that. I'm sorry to Jen.
No,
Yeah,
no.
That was
You're
that
fine.
was a tangent.
That was a tangent that I started. So in
Okay.
fairness, it was my tangent. But
So the
anyway,
episode you were on with Gia and
the episode
Elise.
I was on with Gia and Elise, I talked about how like I absolutely love the Rings of Power, but the thing that I hate the most about both seasons and really the show in general, but particularly season 1 because it's a thing in season 1, is how hard in the paint they went with the who is Sauron thing.
I just edited that. I just edited that today.
Like I just like I will ride this train till the day I die.
Actually, I had to edit it twice because I had computer problems.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry.
I heard you talk about it twice. It is ingrained in my head how much
So
you hate
now
that.
you have to hear me talk about it a third time.
Feel
and then
free.
you'll have
That's
to hear
how-
me talk about it a fourth time when you edit this episode. But anyway.
Or fifth if the computer fucks up again.
Oh god. That's what you get for using a Mac. PC Master
Yeah,
Race.
it's my fault. I'm the worst.
Yeah, Georgie, whatever. Anyway, that's just really my biggest issue because I think that Rings of Power needs to it's kind of like what we've been talking about with the Hobbit movies, is like the Hobbit movies couldn't really decide on a tone if they wanted to be silly or serious. And with the Rings of Power, I feel like they can't decide if they're making this show for fans or for normies.
Yeah.
And so
it
by
almost
doing
feels exacerbated in season 2, honestly.
By doing so, they kind of alienate both.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they would be better suited to just pick one. Either
Agreed.
I'm going to make the show for normies, which is what I think Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings movies. And I think it worked very, very well because I think also that a lot of the fans really liked it, but obviously, as evidenced by the fact that we are talking about this for hours on end.
To be fair, we are entering the 7th hour that the 4 of us have talked about this between 2 episodes.
But like, I think in my
2
opinion,
recordings.
I think that Rings of Power needs to decide if they are making this show for fans or for normies.
I agree.
And
to an extent,
I think the who is Sauron thing was like, oh, we're gonna keep them both guessing, and it's like, nah, you just pissed us off.
Yeah.
And for people like my parents who are 100% normies, they started watching season 2, and my dad was like, wait, did we know that this guy was Sauron? And I was like, yeah, Dad, that was like the big reveal at the end of season 1. But he was like, yeah,
they don't
I
explicitly say it though. So if you're super normie, you might not like.
Yeah,
you should pick up on it. But he says, "I have many names," which is such great writing.
Many names.
Oh,
yeah,
for people who are super into this to know that Sauron is an exonym, and it's likely that he wouldn't start using it at least until much later.
I gotta be honest, I'm so glad he hasn't said the name Sauron.
Yeah, I love that.
Because he fucking hated the name
No,
Sauron.
I love that so much. Here's where I'm not.
I hope to God the fucking estate says, yeah, use Myron. So that he can
Yeah,
call himself Myron
yeah,
and everybody
Mhm.
else calls him Sauron. And he
yeah.
just gets pissed
Mhm.
about it. Anyways.
Well, so I agree with Jen with a, I don't know if it's a caveat or just an addition
An
about like the who is
asterisk.
Sauron thing. Yeah, it's less specifically that like we had to do that, and more to do with like that the first season has like 3 different mystery boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so
The
it
mystery
feels
box.
in the same way that like we talked about this on a different episode of Tolkien on Tap, but like in the same way that The Hobbit feels very un-Tolkien-esque in that everything is constantly suspense, and Tolkien does
Mm-hmm.
mythology and is not that interested in suspense. He's here
Mm-hmm.
to tell you a story and what it means to the characters. Rings of Power, especially season one, mostly season one, is so much like, oh, what is this? What is happening? Who is this
Mm-hmm.
person? Who
Is
is
this
this person?
person Sauron?
And that is so like
Is this person Gandalf?
yeah, it's too much. It's too
Ooh,
many.
we don't know.
Even
We're not
I don't
going
want
to
to,
tell you
right? Like
explicitly.
I wanted to go on a rant about how un-Tolkien that is, but like honestly, as somebody who loves adaptation, I don't want that to be the thing that makes me the most mad. Because if it's a good story, I don't care as much. But like,
Well, and
it's just not good.
listen,
There's
we've
too
talked
much
about
mystery.
I talked well, Jen and I specifically talked about this in that episode with Elise and Gia. I know because I just edited it, and
Nice,
I
nice.
will repeat this right now. The mystery box of Sauron specifically is dumb as fuck to me specifically. Yeah, if you
Agreed.
like it, you like it, you like it. Anyone who's listening or watching or whatever, to me, it's dumb as fuck
It's so
for
dumb.
a very specific reason, and that is Charlie Vickers acting and the choices that he makes as an actor, knowing that he's Sauron. Because when
But
the
he didn't.
audience, no, with the first 2 episodes, he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
The first 2 episodes of him, when he's in it, he doesn't understand. After that, he knew, and
Mm-hmm.
after that is, I think the third episode, which would be the one he knew, is the one where he and Galadriel are in Numenor, and he's I can't remember how it goes, but she's talking about the things that Sauron did, and he's like sorry about his past and whatever. And like there are specific choices, and like even later in the season when he's after Adar is caught and he's talking, I can't remember what he's talking about, but it's been a little bit since I've seen season one because it's not my favorite season. But there are acting choices that Charlie Vickers makes once he knows that the character he's playing is Sauron that are very nuanced and you don't know what the hell's going on. But as an audience, I feel like we should have known that yes,
Oh,
the characters don't know, but we should have known that that was Sauron.
Yeah, I
it
get.
was so obvious that I wanted it to not be him. To
Yeah.
me, in my
Hmm.
opinion, it was like force fed so strongly to us, like, oh, Halbrand is Sauron. That and that I was
Oh
like, I
yeah.
don't want Halbrand to be Sauron.
I was contrariarying. All right. I was trying to be as contrary as possible. I couldn't figure out a word
You
to
got
make.
there.
You
Yeah.
were contrarily.
I figured it out, but I was just being very contrarian. Like everyone's like, obviously he's Sauron, and I was like, hell no, that'd be the stupidest decision ever. In the back of my head,
Exactly.
going like,
Yeah,
ah,
I
fuck, this
know.
is gonna fucking be Sauron,
So
isn't it? I'm gonna
when
look like a
he's
fucking
sitting
idiot.
there talking to Celebrimbor and he's like, consider it a gift. I literally like yelled and threw things at my TV because I was
See,
so pissed because I couldn't pretend that I didn't know anymore.
Yeah.
this is
It was
we
too
get into
obvious.
we
It's
get
been
into
too
my
obvious the
problem.
whole season.
Yeah, we get into my problem. And let me just give the caveat that I'm excited to be able to be with friends and talk about what I didn't like about Rings of Power because I deeply love Rings of Power,
I love
but
Rings of Power.
Same.
it's so like weirdly toxic that I just make
Mm-hmm.
it a point to like I never post anything negative about Rings of
Mm-hmm.
Power because
You can't
I
because
don't
people
want
latch
that.
onto that shit.
Yeah, because I deeply love it, and people are racist and weird and misogynist and like just gross about it. And so
Boring.
I don't want any part of it. So I'm excited to be
Not to
here.
say that your feelings are boring. I'm saying that being racist and
Yeah, yeah,
misogynistic is
agreed,
boring.
Right.
agreed.
Just to be
No,
clear.
It is.
If
it
you're
is a
racist, you're
shame.
boring.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Get
for real,
something
it
new.
is-
It's 2025.
No, I love that.
But for real, it is really difficult because like there are
Yeah.
things that I don't like about Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And I know Jen has expressed this, you've expressed this, David and
Yeah.
Lee and New Beta and Belmont and Bardavarda and a ton of people, Kaya and Callie, everyone has expressed Kelly, who's been on here, the middle page, everyone has expressed like there are things I don't like, but we can only talk about it with each other
Amongst
because
ourselves.
the minute
Yes.
we put it out there in the ether
Yeah.
of the
They're like-
internet,
They're like, yeah, you're
somebody-
right.
Yeah.
Black elves. And I'm like, what?
No.
Arondir is amazing.
Arondir is
Shut the hell up.
beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful
and that's the
elf
thing.
man person.
Yeah.
The thing,
and I just-
the characters who do not derive from the text, who are also happen to be the ones who are the characters that are portrayed by people of color, happen to be the fucking coolest parts of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
Disa,
Disa
yeah, this is
is
a
fucking
Disa
Disa and
phenomenal.
Holy
Arondir
shit.
full
Oh.
stand forever.
Oh my god,
Um,
and Arondir, hell yeah.
Hell
be a-
yeah.
I'll
If
be a
they kill
fucking tree for him
Arondir,
any day.
I quit.
Oh,
I want
I
it's
Arondir to
coming.
at least make it to the Last Alliance. At
Yeah.
the very least.
I mean, if he
Yeah.
if
he
he
dies
like
during
has
it, that's
some
fine.
epic death
If
in
he
the
dies
Last
with
Alliance,
Anarian or something like that,
yeah,
that would be
But
cool.
if he dies the same way as Anadian, as like a rock falls on his head, I
two
think I'm gonna
rocks
be like,
come down.
come on.
rocks
I
fall,
guess-
everyone dies.
Talk about anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Fucking pulling it back to fucking
But anyway,
the scouring of the shark.
So that was an aside to say, as somebody who like grew up as a deep Tolkien nerd, but had kind of wasn't super deep into it until really as season 2 was about to come out is when I really got like super back in. Like I watched season 1 the second it came out, but I wasn't like back in, Tolkien is my hyper focus world that I've spent so much of my life in.
What must that be like?
So for me,
I literally don't even remember.
as somebody who obsessively read them for the first 20 years and then kind of off and on in my 20s and like hadn't touched them in a while, like the Sauron Halbrand thing didn't really super hit until they were with Celebrimbor. And then I remember specifically that moment of like, consider it a gift. And I remember thinking, if all we get is a tiny wink towards Anatar, and that's the entire Anatar thing that's happening, I'm so annoyed. And that's the problem, especially with season 1. Season 2 gets so much better with this issue. But also season 1 is better in retrospect paired with season 2. I will say that.
Yep.
And I'll get into that in a minute. But like season 1 has so many moments that like are for normies and are just completely different, and then include a subtle wink to like the deep Tolkien nerds in such a way that's like, it's not satisfying. It's like, is that all we get? It's like, this is content
You know what?
from the appendices of Lord of the Rings. Why are you winking about it?
You know
no
what?
one has done it before.
You know what that makes me realize just now? I mean, like we've talked about this numerous times. The three of us specifically. I was gonna say the two and I could have just said 3. The 3 of us have
the math.
spoken. Yeah, I'm so good at math and also figuring out how sentences and life works.
Yeah, for sure. The cosmos help.
Yes, they do. But I'm just realizing that the way you just framed that, George, made me realize something. Jen specifically, in the episode with Elise and Gia, we talked about how Tolkien will just drop something and move the fuck along. He'll just name drop and move the fuck along.
Yep.
Fucking Rings of Power did the exact same fucking shit to us. I didn't realize that till right now. They are literally just like dropping shit to get you like hype. Here's some
in
hype.
fucking
Here's some
Shadow
hype.
of the
Here's some
Past,
hype.
when Gandalf's just like talking about like things that could destroy the ring, and he just like casually drops and
Caligon the Black.
and
yeah.
then never again. And then in the Charge of the Rohirrim, when they compare Theoden to Orome, and then this is like, who the fuck is Orome?
Yeah.
And
That's
people-
100%. I just put it together with the way George framed the thought
Yes.
that he just had.
Mhm.
That's exactly, which makes me realize that I think that maybe the people who who run the Rings of Power might understand Tolkien a little bit better than
Maybe?
Jackson did.
You think?
You think? Yeah, like that's I'm sorry. I feel like there's no way I haven't mentioned this on your podcast yet, but I'm gonna do it again because it's worth it. One of my favorite things that Rings of Power seems to do, like largely it stands on its own. Sometimes it references the Jackson trilogy too much. Um,
Yeah, I think
but
it needs to
one
decide
of my
that
favorite
too.
things to do,
Mhm.
one of my favorite things that I'm sure we've talked about already, but just literally one of my favorite things about Rings of Power is we don't get 5 minutes into Rings of Power before we get into one of Tolkien's major themes that is completely absent from the Jackson trilogy,
Mm,
which is the persistence of evil.
mhm.
Uh, like Jackson doesn't touch that at all.
But
We are
also the fact that nothing is evil in the beginning.
Nothing
Thank you,
is
Jen.
yes,
Thank you.
exactly.
Oh
And
my
that's
God.
literally the first sentence of Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Like they're like, "Oh, what did we
Like
miss?" Okay.
not even Melkor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
And this
also
is
everything that Melkor did was all just part of Eru Ilúvatar's plan.
Right.
So
and this to me is why Rings of Power is so important, and I hope that it continues and is very successful despite people
Uh-huh.
being is because like aside from on the whole, we're going to talk about some things I don't like, but on the whole, I like Rings of Power, but I'm also so excited to have a non-Jacksonian voice because the last
Yes.
thing I want to happen for adaptation, and TJ, we talked about this on a live a little bit. Oh, I popped in for like 3 minutes
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago. The
Mhm.
last thing I want to happen to Tolkien is I don't want it to get Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
which is
mhm,
Wizard of Oz is like a 30 books long and
mhm.
covers a number of themes, some good, some bad. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. But like its original novel had one adaptation, one voice that is completely culturally absolutely taken over. I'm hoping Wicked breaks it, but like the
It won't.
1939 film of Wizard of Oz is the entire cultural understanding of what Wizard of Oz is.
That's gonna end up being Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson's Lord
And
of the Rings.
that
It
is
will,
so
unfortunately.
sad to me because like
That's
uh,
how that's how that's how
Well, I mean,
media works
yeah,
in
look at
this
what
world.
yeah,
happened with, I mean, people who grew
Look at
up with like the
Spider-Man.
Rankin Bass Hobbit,
sure.
like that.
But like look at the like so Wizard of Oz was like I'm sorry, not Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was like the first of the Oz things to have been made in a
Yeah,
time where there was not a lot of media to be made. That's a little
yeah,
bit
Mhm.
different. But
sure.
Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings was a huge, big budget thing by a giant studio that won a ton of awards and was critically acclaimed and culturally
Show that
accepted.
fantasy was possible as a broad cultural
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
So now, 20 years later, 24 years later, I'm sorry, 23 years later, I don't know how to do math, whatever. 5, 6, 7, 8.
24 from Fellowship, even though Fellowship was technically in
Thank you.
December of
Thank you. I forgot how to
2001.
do math for a
Yeah.
minute. I forgot for some reason. I was like, this came out in like 99,
December
right?
will be 24 years from
Yeah.
Fellowship.
So you got to look at it like, where was I going with this? Someone?
That
Something about Wizard of Oz and Peter
you think
Jackson's
it's hopeless,
adaptation
and
Oh,
then
being
it was so
Peter
Yeah,
critically
Jackson's
acclaimed. Yes, yes, yes.
being the
Okay.
zeitgeist
Thank
of
you. Thank you.
like
Well, it is, and it's I don't think it's going to change no matter how loud any of us who are deeper into the lore and have been reading things, whether we were introduced through Jackson stuff or not. I don't think culturally it's going to go away ever
well, I want it to go its
because
way, but I just
not go away, but like I don't think it's ever going to get challenged in the way that like it should be,
yeah,
because like visual art, visual mediums like TV, television, and film should be challenged by new iterations of, especially if there's a source material where you can change it a little bit. But the problem is, look at things like Jaws and Jurassic Park and Wizard of Oz, like you brought up.
yeah.
Like I have read Jaws and Jurassic Park and The Wizard of Oz, but like those films are so much different from their novels.
Oh, for sure.
But they're not as they're not it's a little bit easier to adapt something like Jaws or Jurassic Park. I'm going to take the Wizard of Oz,
the
the Wizard,
Waz.
the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz off the table for a minute because I'm far more equated with Jaws and Jurassic Park. Though there will never be anything that will compare to that, whether they stick closer to the source material or not, because it's twofold. it's a little twofold. Both films were released not long after the books were published, which is a huge thing.
That's a difference that
But
is relevant.
the books. Now I'm going to shift to just Jurassic Park. The book is insanely beautiful and incredible, and like this beautiful dive into the philosophy of right and wrong and should and should, like very much like Ian Malcolm. Like you were so preoccupied with whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think if you should. It's like that is
Yeah.
the quintessential like boil it down argument to or synopsis of Jurassic Park. It's a lot easier to do something like that to that. But I said all that to say the thing is, we live in an age where, yes, Tolkien has been around for nearly 100 years at this point, as far as like his stories from at least from The Hobbit. Jackson's films are so acclaimed, and they came from people who, art direction wise, at least, like Alan Lee and Howard. No,
John Howe.
John Howe. Thank you. I
You're
almost said
welcome.
Howard Shore. That's the composer.
Mhm.
They came from people who have been doing stuff for so long in that medium for that specific story, and they were so big for so many people. It's gonna take
Mhm.
a fucking
Yeah.
lot to challenge
Sure.
those
I
films,
think I think
which is a
that's
shame because
yeah.
they should be, because there
Yeah.
is no perfect adaptation, which
Yeah.
is
Well, that's
kind
why
of the
I'm
point of
glad
like
Rings of
our
Power exists.
episodes
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that that is one of the, like, what you just touched on is like one of the biggest things for me, is that I think that so many, like so much of like, and I don't want to be like, painting with a broad stroke, but from my experience, at least with the people that I mostly engage with, like most of the people that I regularly engage with in the Tolkien fandom, in the book club, on threads, whatever, are in an age range, like 20 to 45-ish. So, you've got the vast majority of like millennials, and then you've got some Gen X and some Gen Z fringies on the sides. But I think that we're gonna have to really wait until like there are younger generations engaging with the Tolkien fandom who were not introduced to the Tolkien fandom through the films. And I think that
Yep.
is
yeah.
going to take some time, because I think that it was such a huge cultural phenomenon. Like I think about like myself, for example, like I was only 10 when Fellowship came out, and my parents are not like nerdy people, and they took me to go see Fellowship because like it was a big deal. And also my brother, who couldn't go see the movie at the time, was like, you have to go see this movie. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. And so they're like, well, I guess we'll take Jen because, like maybe she'll like it. And I honestly don't remember that much about Fellowship. Like, and
Little did they know it would change
little,
you
yeah.
Yeah.
forever.
It was, as we discussed in the previous episode, it was all
It
about
was,
Treebeard.
yeah,
Yeah.
fully.
It
Yeah.
was all about Treebeard,
Yeah.
Gateway
but
Gateway
drug.
drug.
like
Yeah.
gateway drug. But like, I think that we're gonna have to wait until
Yeah.
like that our and I'm not saying like, oh, our generation has to like die or whatever, but I think that you're gonna have to have a younger generation of Tolkien fans who come into the Tolkien fandom through other means, whether it be
Yeah.
strictly the books or Rings of Power or adaptations that are slightly different. And I think that for
Yeah.
me,
The
I
Rankin Bass
think,
Return of the King.
yeah, exactly. I think that's just gonna take time. I think that
Yeah.
I feel like the story of the Lord of the Rings, and I, really have to, doff my cap to the professor here for this. I think that Tolkien's fixation on avoiding allegory, like direct allegory and
Mhm.
intentional allegory, and focusing more on applicability, I think makes Lord of the Rings something that will and has already, stand the test of time. And so I think that
100%.
we are
Agreed.
eventually going to see new adaptations and new ideas and things like that. But I think that Rings of Power, due to its ultimately, when we think about the eternal scheme of things, its proximity to the Peter Jackson films, being released within 20-ish years of Fellowship, because season 1 came out in 2022, which was 21 years after Fellowship. And the fact that McPain are effectively elder millennials and thus have the same, even if the films weren't your introduction to the Tolkien universe, I think that the films made it culturally acceptable to love Tolkien in a way that the books never did, and made the stories accessible in a way that the books on their own never did. And so I think that McPain are effectively whether they want to or not, are going to be influenced by the Jackson films, and also to some extent intentionally are going to be influenced by the Jackson films, because they don't want to do something so different that people are like, whoa, what the hell? I think it's one of
Which
those
is why the
things we're gonna-
Balrog looks the exact fucking same with minor fucking tweaks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it
Which
doesn't
I
help
have-
that they've got
I have-
John Howe working on the show.
I mean,
the
I have
show.
feelings about all of that. I mean, as long as it's not a freaking weird lion man with a whip.
I mean, I just wish it was just straight up humanoid, but that's a different conversation.
But
you're not.
No,
Go ahead.
I don't.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so thank you both for being here. Jen, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitch as at elvish_groves. I guess technically on Blue Sky it's elvish-groves because they wouldn't let me do an underscore. It doesn't matter. It's just Elvish Groves. Come join the book club. It's fun.
Yes.
It is fun. We're all part of the same
It's great
Discord.
fun.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
George, where can people find you if they want to?
So I am, and this is different from, I can't remember when. It's definitely different from the first time I was on here. I am George and Such, pretty much everywhere, but basically where you will actually find me to be online will be Threads and Blue Sky and TikTok. George and Such.
Well, thank you both for hanging out. It's been a great second time recording with you both. I love you both very much. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
We love you too.
We love you too.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Tolkien on Tap. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on any of my social medias. I'm on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at @the_Neej. Namarie.